Opposition parties in the Central African Republic demand for postponement of presidential elections. In the United States, top congressional leaders have announced coronavirus aid package. And Tokyo authorities ask all residents to celebrate Christmas and New Year at home to battle the coronavirus pandemic. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. A coalition of opposition parties in Central African Republic on Sunday called for postponement of presidential and legislative elections due to go ahead later this week. The coalition of the Democratic Opposition, COD 2020, made the call a day after the government accused the group's former leader, ex-President François Bozizé, of trying to stage a coup d'etat. A statement from the coalition demands the postponement of the December group elections until the re-establishment of peace and security. Presidential and legislative elections are due to take place on December 27. And on Sunday, the United Nations deployed troops to parts of the Central African Republic in response to attacks by suspected Seleka rebel fighters. Local media outlets report that the rebels have taken control of key highways leading to the capital Bangui. The situation has been left citizens of the troubled country worried about their safety.
I am worried. I'm worried for our country. Because of the rebels who are coming or I don't know what, we are afraid for our children. Not everyone here lives happily. We have problems like me there. I'm going to work for the Lebanese shopkeepers, but every time we have to flee, every time we flee.
We have had enough of this behavior, which divides people on the eve of an election. Our politicians play us off against one another, while they get along well with each other. But they push us to divide, to kill each other.
And 5 Nigerian soldiers have been killed and 35 civilians kidnapped in 2 separate jihadist attacks in the northeast Borno state. Islamic State-affiliated jihadists ambushed a military convoy and fired a rocket-propelled grenade, which hit one of the vehicles carrying the deceased soldiers. In a separate attack on Saturday, 1 woman was killed and about 35 people were kidnapped after a transport convoy was also attacked in the same region. Jihadist attacks have increased in Nigeria in the last few years. About 36,000 have been killed so far by Boko Haram and the Islamic State West Africa Province splinter group since 2009. And Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, orders schools to shut indefinitely, banned concerts, carnivals and street parties, and ordered certain civil servants to work from home amid a spike in new cases of Covid-19. State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who was isolating himself to his own Covid-19 diagnosis last week, said in a statement that the tightened measures have to prevent another lockdown that the struggling state could ill afford. Jordan's Foreign Minister Aymani Safadi has urged the Biden administration to initiate negotiations between Israeli and Palestinians to reach a political settlement based on a 2-state solution.
The thing is clear. There is a political deadlock, and the negotiations are a stalemate. There are illegitimate Israeli actions on the ground that affects all chances to reach a comprehensive peace process that can only happen with the 2-state solution. We can see building and expanding the settlements, the demolition of houses and territory annexation, and the violations against Al-Aqsa Mosque. The thing is clear. There is a political deadlock, and the negotiations are a stalemate. There are illegitimate Israeli actions on the ground that affects all chances to reach a comprehensive peace process that can only happen with the 2-state solution. We can see building and expanding the settlements, the demolition of houses and territory annexation, and the violations against Al-Aqsa Mosque. The thing is clear. There is a political deadlock, and the negotiations are a stalemate. There are illegitimate Israeli actions on the ground that affects all chances to reach a comprehensive peace process that can only happen.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away.
身体健康，我冥想。
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Guide your body. Tuesdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. In the United States, top congressional leaders have announced agreement on a $900 billion coronavirus aid package after late-night discussions on Sunday. The Republican Senate leader and one of the most reluctant lawmakers to pass this help said that the congressmen and women needed to promptly finalize text and avoid any last-minute obstacles. Democratic Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said the package should have enough support to pass both chambers of Congress. The coronavirus aid deal includes $600 in direct payments to individuals and a $300 per week unemployment compensation supplement, the second largest economic stimulus in U.S. history following the $2.3 trillion CARES Act passed in March. In the 11 months since the first coronavirus cases were documented in the U.S., COVID-19 has killed around 316,000 people, by far the highest figure in the world, and put millions out of work. And workers on Sunday began packaging shipments of the second COVID-19 vaccine authorized in the United States, a desperately needed boost to efforts to bring the coronavirus pandemic under control. The much-needed shots developed by Moderna and the National Institutes of Health are expected to start being administered on Monday, just 3 days after the Food and Drug Administration authorized their emergency rollout. As scheduled, on Sunday, an expert committee held a debate to determine who should be the next in line for early doses of the Moderna vaccine, and a similar one from Pfizer and Germany's BioNTech. And central London was unusually quiet on the last Sunday before Christmas, after the government imposed new measures to contain a mutant strain of the virus that's sweeping across southern England. Millions of people were forced to cancel their Christmas get-togethers, and shops had to close in London and much of the southern England after Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced on Saturday that he was raising the region's restrictions level to Tier 4. Reacting to the new restrictions, London's mayors appealed to the government to support the capital and its industries.
And we have the same number of patients in our hospitals as inpatients with COVID now as we had at the peak in April. And this is the month before January, which is the busiest month of the year for our NHS. Nobody wants the NHS to be overwhelmed over the course of the next few days and weeks. This will not just be the worst Christmas we've had as a city since the Second World War. It's the worst year we've had since the Second World War. Many of our sectors, think of culture, hospitality, leisure, tourism, retail, have suffered in ways they've never experienced, people with many, many long careers. And that's why we've been pleading with the government for a roadmap to recovery. I'm pleading with the government, don't turn your back on these, be crucial, not just to London's recovery, but to the national recovery, particularly as we'll have left the European Union completely by January the 1st. And
the Netherlands has banned flights from the United Kingdom until the new year in an attempt to make sure a new strain of the COVID-19 virus that's currently sweeping parts of southern England doesn't get a foothold on the continent.
Het vliegverbod uit voorzorg genomen. En ook andere maatregelen overwegen we nu uit voorzorg, omdat je altijd moet willen proberen een variant van het virus dat mogelijkerwijs besmettelijker zou zijn dan de varianten die we op dit moment kennen, dat die via meerdere introducties naar het vasteland van Europa komt. In welke mate deze mutatie zich ook nu al in Nederland, maar ook in andere Europese landen bevindt, dat is op dit moment niet te zeggen. Wij weten in ieder geval van één geval dat die zich op Nederlandse bodem begeeft. Nou, we zoeken op dit moment uit met wie is die in contact geweest. En is het een variant die vaker voorkomt? Dat zoeken we uit via het RIVM en de GGD. En zodra we daar meer over weten, zullen we u daar nader over berichten. Het vliegverbod van nu is uit voorzorg genomen. Andere beperkingen van inreismogelijkheden vanuit het Verenigd Koninkrijk worden op dit moment overwogen. Ja, ik vind dat een variant, zoals die zich nu lijkt voor te doen in Engeland, waarbij het bericht is, die verspreidt zich mogelijkerwijs sneller dan gedacht. Ja, dat is natuurlijk aanleiding voor zorg. Dat is aanleiding om goed te kijken hoe zouden we kunnen zorgen dat die mutatie, die variant, niet via allerlei introducties naar Nederland komt. Zeker. Maar ik vind ook dat we het stap voor stap moeten doen en moeten zorgen dat we de informatie die er is in het Verenigd Koninkrijk, die er internationaal is, bij de internationale club van RIVM, dus het ECDC, dat we die heel goed moeten wegen om te weten in welke mate we ons daadwerkelijk zorgen te maken hebben. Om te weten voor ons in welke mate we ons daadwerkelijk zorgen te maken hebben. Voor ons is het in ieder geval vinger aan de pols en alle hens aan dek.
Okay.
And just within hours of the announcement by the Netherlands to ban travelers from the UK, more countries including Israel, France, Germany, Ireland, Austria, Italy, Romania, Belgium and Bulgaria have also imposed restrictions on travel with the UK.
We made a difficult decision today, but it is connected to reality. We have closed the skies to all flights to Israel from the UK, Denmark and South Africa. These are the countries where the mutation is present. If necessary, we will add more countries. Anyone returning from these countries will go into isolation, and it's very important to get checked.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us.
teleSUR English presents a weekly program to discuss the political, economic and social issues affecting the Caribbean community. We'll challenge stereotypes and unpack the diversity of the region through the analysis of unique cultures, religions and art. We Caribbean. Wednesdays, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back from the south. Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike on Monday asked all residents to celebrate Christmas and New Year at home, just with their families, as the Japanese city continues to battle the coronavirus pandemic. Daily coronavirus cases have been steadily on the rise nationwide, and Tokyo hit a new height of 822 last Friday. Koike said organizers of Tokyo's Christmas illumination events had agreed to close at 8 p.m. every night, and subway companies will not operate overnight trains on New Year's Eve to discourage people from gathering for annual countdown events. City-operated parks and zoo will also be closed until January 11th, and the authorities and volunteers will patrol entertainment districts for awareness-raising campaigns during the season. To this date, Japan registers nearly 200,000 COVID-19 cases and nearly 2,900 fatalities. South Korean authorities have introduced a new set of social distancing rules as the country records more than 1,000 new coronavirus cases for the fifth consecutive day. According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, almost 1,100 additional cases have been recorded over the past 24 hours, which is the highest daily toll since the start of the pandemic. Most of the new cases have been found in the densely populated Seoul metropolitan area. South Korea has almost 50,000 COVID-19 cases and 674 people have died from the virus.
As we have largely expanded virus tests, the number of new cases is rapidly increasing and jumping over 1,000 cases per day. However, we are not seeing a decreasing trend in the numbers, so it is a dangerous situation.
And residents of the Bosnian city of Mostar have voted for the first time in a local election in more than a decade. Bosnia's constitutional court suspended local elections in the city in 2008 after declaring the election rules discriminatory. Disagreements between Muslim Bosniaks and Catholic Croats, who fought fiercely for control over the cities during the country's 1992-95 war, led the postponement of the elections for over a decade, until an agreement between the two groups was finally reached in June.
For better, nicer life, we want a city that is not divided. We want city as a unified entity, united people, as it was before the war.
It's time that Mostar gets authorities. We waited for long. Now, who will that be? We will see.
4 people were killed and 1 reported missing after a strong cyclone swept through the Pacific island nation of Fiji. Officials say they are still carrying out evacuations and assessing the extent of the damage caused by the cyclone named Yasa. The strong winds were traveling at the 345 kilometers per hour, and Fiji's Vanuatu island was the most affected. The government has already declared Cyclone Yasa a national disaster. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please follow us in social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.